Let me give him a minute or two.
Okay. Do we
Uh,
have the main people that that speak?
Tatsi, you're on for this date, and then Lori should be joining us shortly.
Okay. Okay, let me just give another minute or so and then we'll start.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see you all.
Hi, Tatsi.
Good
Same
to
to
see you
you.
as well.
Or not see me.
Well,
We don't
to
see
hear
you.
you.
But you're here. Okay, Roberto, I think anybody else that needs to chime in, because we have Dr. Kiki here, so she could start first once we get through all the formalities. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting and then everybody else can chime in. Is that good? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Marcano, we'd have no consent items. Do you approve the minutes or do you have any other revisions?
I don't have any revisions.
Okay, so we'll approve the minutes, and if you forward those over, I will get those to signature. So next on our agenda, we have Dr. Kiki from Aurora Public Schools. And Dr. Kiki, just to kind of give you kind of an idea what this committee does, we look at federal and state priorities and how they align with the city. And we have lobbyists that kind of advocate those priorities at the state and federal levels. But what's also important is the regional partnerships that we have with our counties, with our school districts, because that's kind of important in terms of how we get things done. You know, if we can collaborate on some things together, I think that's really important. So I'm so glad that you're here because I think that there are some things that we're hoping to find out from you that maybe we can partner with the city of Aurora. And I hope that we can continue those conversations and have someone from the board or from the school district to continue to come to our meetings, maybe on a quarterly basis or however we see fit, or if something even comes up. Councilmember Marcano, did you want to add to anything that I just stated or have any other further comments?
Sorry, my cat muted my cat muted me.
He
Sorry
doesn't
about
want
that.
you to be on the meeting.
Yeah, no, he's like, pay attention to me. No, no. So I did want to add that there are so many issues that I know our students and our families are dealing with that really manifest in the classroom and often come to the school board's attention, but really fall more into the purview of council. Because we're the ones that kind of set wage policy, housing policy, and things of that nature, and vice versa. There's a lot of things that we can be great partners with both of our school districts to address so that we ensure that we are setting all of our students and our families up for long-term success in the city. So I'm very excited to, have this, now be a standing item on our agenda to build a stronger relationship with both of our school districts.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Marcano. And we do have another Councilmember Gardner. He's not here today, so he's the vice chair of the committee. So Dr. Kiki, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and give it to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, this is so important, right? Local elected officials, I believe, are the ones that are doing the groundwork, and having everyone's voice in our city as elected official is important, especially in education right now, because everything, I don't need to tell you guys, we know that education has been politicized and weaponized. So I truly believe that the voice of board members are important. The voices of board members are important, and I still believe that a partnership between the city and the district has to happen. In my research, Colorado is one of the few states that does not have that partnership, between the city and the district. In other states, the partnership is so strong that they quarterly or bi-yearly meet together, sit on the dais together, and discuss things that pertain to our youth and our students together, right? I am hoping that I am the board members that support this endeavor will come together and continue to make our voice strong and make our way to do that. But for today, I just want to say thank you for having me again. I'm going to dive straight into what I have for you. Since the last meeting that we have with the city about school closures, a lot of things have happened, and they're good things. Blueprint is still planning for the future. We've had several groundbreaking events. Leno groundbreaking has happened, and Leno is in Ward 1. We've also had a groundbreaking in Ward 2 in Aurora Highlands. That's for Leno and for Ward 1 and Ward 2, there are P-TECs that are being built there, right? So the new P-TEC, one was at Leno, and then a brand new one on brand new ground in Aurora Highlands is happening as well. That's in Ward 2. We also opened our 2 new magnet schools, which were schools that were closed before that have been repurposed for the magnet schools. We have the Clara Brown Visual and Performing Art that has opened officially. We went and did the inaugural ceremony there. We also have the Charles Burrell that has opened as well and have taken students, and students are doing great there. We hope that it stays the same. We are currently in our boundary processes because when school closes, schools close, and when there are new ideas that are coming, boundaries also change, right? What does that mean? Students have to be moved from one place to another. So we have to restructure as far as the district is happening. So it doesn't really affect the city. It's more like a school district thing, but it's important to know, right? Where are the kids are going, because now kids that are in one ward could be moved to a different ward. So it is important for the city to know. So that process is happening now. And there are meetings that are happening as well for people to understand what that means and how that's going to take place, and what's that going to affect. And what is going to affect is the repurposing of these facilities that have been closed, because the discussion is going to be happening soon. And then the board is going to be voting on those repurposing, on those buildings to be repurposed, especially if there are requests for proposals to sell any of these buildings. So the conversations are happening. Some meetings that have taken places already. So the ones that have not, as we're talking right now, there is the Paris Boundary Open House today as we're talking. That's from 1 to 2 at Paris Elementary. There's the Sable Parent Teacher Conference tomorrow at 3:15. And then there's the Murphy Creek Parent Teacher Conference, where they will also hear about the boundaries and the repurposing and the groundbreaking and all that good stuff. Yesterday at our board meeting, we did have a presentation about repurposing of mainly Sable and Paris. And the board was firm to the district about making sure this time that every single community members hears about this. We do not want the confusion that had happened before when we were getting ready to vote to keep it open or closed. Because again, families are going to be hurt. There will be a re-trauma when we bring that up. So we want to make sure that everybody is aware. So very soon you are going to be seeing some flyers around, some ads around and that's the most important right now. So the district is putting a one pager together that I am going to send to maybe Roberto once it's ready for you guys to have. My plan is to have the board come again and speak to the city as a whole, to the council members as a whole in one of your work meeting. And let's see if that happens. I am still talking to Rico about this logistic as well, or how we are going to do it. So in a nutshell, this is what APS is doing. They're all good things amid of the bad, and trying to solve detailed problems and issues between communities and students. But in nutshells, these are the really cool things that are happening in APS.
Councilmember Marcano, I'll defer to you first and to ask some questions, and then I have a couple questions.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Lawson, and thank you, Director Kiki, for sharing that update with us. I do have a question about Century Elementary, which is in Ward 4. So I understand that it's going to be converted for a different purpose for students with disabilities. Can you tell us a little more about that?
So Century is going to be Century is not going to be sold, that's for sure. It is going to remain a PS building. And right now, the superintendent is trying to figure out if it will stay for student with disability, or if we are going to add another something else to it. But for now, the official narrative is it will be for students with severe disability. As Paris closed, as Sable closed, as Wheeling closed, and so Linol and all of that, let's not forget there were students there that are severely disabled and need super help. Now, the idea is, can we find a middle ground facility where all these students will be housed? You know, the majority of them will be housed with the help that they need.
Okay.
So that will be the purpose for it.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up, Councilmember Lawson?
Yes, continue.
All right, thank you. So at this point, do you have any estimates in terms of the overall utilization of the existing facility? The reason I ask is there are the community immediately around the school. They have brought asks in the past to see if there's potential to add a senior center component there, since the demographics of that neighborhood have changed. And there was even an ask potentially for a substation for APD to have a local presence. Is that something that y'all have discussed as it pertains to Century?
No, this is how it works. The board is a policy governance board, and then the superintendent is the sole owner of the operations portion of it. Now, when they're repurposing, unless the building is going to be given away, the board doesn't have any authority. The board can make suggestions, but really, because it falls within the authority of the superintendent, we don't have much jurisdiction. So as long as the building is not going to be sold, the main ideas are coming from the superintendent, and he just gives us a heads up. This is what I plan on doing, and that's pretty much it. We can't say yay or nay, because that falls right within his jurisdiction. So it's a little bit of a difficult thing right now, but we know one thing: there are going to be requests for proposals that are going to be going out soon. And when I say soon, in the next month. And we also insisted yesterday that these RFPs be advertised properly, so that one group of people does not get left out and have a chance to also respond to those RFPs. and a chance also to bid just like everybody else.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Kiki. So bringing that into light and what you stated in the beginning about, you've looked at other jurisdictions that have a little bit more collaboration with their school district. And based on the things that you just brought up, where can we kind of bridge that a little bit better? Because I do see with all this repurposing going on and how we're looking at buildings, and it's impacting our city and also our communities. So what could we do? And I feel a little responsible because being on this committee, and being the chair, but let's just fix what we can do now going forward. How can we build upon that? What's some suggestions, not just coming to these meetings and coming to council, but you brought up in light about really coming together and sitting at the table. What's some suggestions on that so we can try to move forward in that direction? Because especially with everything that you've explained here, that's impactful to our community, but also it has a lot of city implications as well. So I think right now is the time to try to get something, but I would like to know some of your thoughts on that.
So what I have seen other cities do is make sure that informations are shared, right? Or information is shared. Um, in some cases, they do have a liaison between the board and the city. And then for the details, right? For details that don't need to be discussed in public like that, So the liaison is the one that now brings the details of the meetings that had happened to the board, you know, on the board to the city or on the city to the board. That way we are in sync and we know where information about our youth are going and what's going on. Because the main thing that links us is our youth, because our youth are the ones that are our students. So anything related to them is being put out there to both parties by that liaison. And it could be in some states, it's a volunteer, in others, it's a paid position. But this is something to look at. The other suggestion, as I said earlier, is meeting at the beginning of the school year with, the first months of the beginning of the school year with the city council, right? And in between, when there are major decisions that the district is going to make, meeting also, and then at the end of the year, meeting again, the school year, meeting again with council, where all together, 10 members, 20, 40 members, whichever number it is, sit down and then listen to each other and then make decision that pertains to our kids together.
Okay.
Right. Those
And I do think, I think that liaison piece is really significant.
Yeah.
So Roberto, I kind of want to follow up on that and how that's something that we could do. Definitely working with the board because I know that there's certain information.
Yeah.
But I think that the report out or having some type of liaison.
Yeah.
In between, that's going to be kind of the catalyst for this to really be effective. So that's something, thank you for that suggestion and how we can move forward on that, because that's going to be key. So
absolutely. And all it takes is that one person to sit on city council meetings and then have a summary of the meeting, right? And then report it to the board, and vice versa, either via email or sometimes be invited to speak and make a presentation, especially on major issues.
Okay. And then in regards to, we've been pushing this initiative for the youth violence, and I know APS, you guys have done some initiatives as well. What's your thoughts on that, and what could we be doing a little bit more with the school district to kind of make those efforts a little bit more successful as well, and to benefit our students?
This is a very important topic because the violence is still happening, right? Within our schools, around our schools, but we also know that the city gets some money, some funding around our youth. So the suggestion that I have is again, when those funds are dispersed and there are talks around how to spend that, right? That's where the decision makers, who are the elected officials, should come together
Mhm.
and talk about it,
Mhm.
right? So that there is no duplication of services. Because right now, that's what is happening. The district is doing one thing with the money that they got. The city is doing one thing with the money that they got. And what we're looking at is duplication of service, and then it becomes ineffective because parents don't know where to go,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
There's
Right.
either too much information or too little information, and
Yeah.
then money goes to waste.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I'm seeing some of we're still, even though we've had this program in about a year and a half, almost 2 years, there's still a lot of silos. And I
Yeah.
think that is really something that I'm hoping and trying to see where we can go, because like you said, duplication, if we can do different and innovative things as well, that's what's going to kind of bridge. We're not going to stop it all, but
Right.
it would have more benefits. So I do understand what you're saying. I think that there is a lot of silos still, even today. You can have all the funding you want, but
Yeah.
if it's still siloed, it's not going to work,
No.
you know, in the comprehensive way that we want it to work.
Totally.
So thank you so much for that thought process as well. Councilmember Marcano, do you want to do any follow-ups to what I said, or do you have any additional?
I think I just want to add to what you said. I completely agree with your suggestions so far. If you hadn't brought that up to Roberto about that liaison, I think that I was going to suggest that based off of Dr. Kiki's recommendations. And yeah, I would agree. I think that there's a tremendous amount of area where we are maybe duplicating services. And I think what we ought to be doing is, to the maximum extent possible, consolidating those services and ensuring that we're pushing in the same direction. Because I think we'll have a more immediate and noticeable impact for our community. So thank you so much for joining us and for
Yes.
giving us those suggestions. I think this is a really great first start, or
Yes.
start to this process. So thank you.
Yes, and I will
And
not leave any gaps unknown. Since with these suggestions, we will definitely talk about that within committee as well,
yeah,
but
yeah,
also, some of these recommendations, because it's going to be really important and key.
yeah,
So I appreciated Dr. Kiki for giving your perspective, and thank you for
yeah.
being on today and for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I have another meeting to hop into. And I wish you a great day.
Okay, thank you very much. Jasper, I saw you on there on the video. Hi, welcome.
Hey, Jasper.
How are you?
Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Doing well.
Jasper, I don't know if you were on, if I just kind of gave you just just what this committee does. And then I'll let Councilmember Marcano chime in as well, just because I don't know if I saw you on, but basically the Federal, State, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, we look at federal and state legislation and how it aligns with our city priorities. And we have lobbyists that actually advocate for us at the state legislature and at the federal level. But as I was stating to Dr. Kiki, it's very important that we have these regional and local, collaborations, because we are a community, and it's very important that we kind of bridge together on things, on efforts that we can as a city that impact especially our youth, and then also our families and our community in general. So I'll let, I kind of took some of the things from Councilmember Mercado, but I'll let him go ahead and expand on that.
I think that was a great summary, Councilmember Lawson.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
the goal here is to just make sure that we're strengthening the relationships between the city and both of our school districts so that we produce better outcomes for our community overall.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
Jasper, so thank you for being here. And if you can provide any updates, and then, your perspective on how we can better bridge our relationship with Cherry Creek School District in terms of our youth and any kind of programming that or any type of thing that we probably need to respond to, or, know in the city. So.
Well, I certainly appreciate the invite to come and sit down and collaborate and thought partner with you on this very important topic, right? I know in the Cherry Creek School District, we often get there's a perception, right, that the district doesn't, that it has all the resources that it needs, right? And that there's not as great a need in Creek as in other districts. I believe that inside the Cherry Creek School District, we service, um, there are more students that attend Cherry Creek schools in the city of Aurora than APS itself, right? And so we are an Aurora-based school district. And the issues that affect the city of Aurora affect Cherry Creek. Um, and I think Cherry Creek has done a good job of uh, how do I say this? Building barriers around itself, right? To not just get lumped in with the city of Aurora. However, the reality is, most of our students and families live within the city limits. One of the community engagement um, thrusts that we're putting a lot of time, energy, and resource into is around this idea of youth violence, right? And I was grateful to hear Director Kiki speak about it as well. But you know, this summer we ran our Leadership Academy um, with amazing success. And what are the success indicators, right? Well, we didn't lose any kids this summer. We haven't lost it. We haven't lost any, thank God, this fall. That attended our academy, right? But how do we partner? So some of the things that we are learning from the Leadership Academy is that this Leadership Academy is really causing the district to see itself in a different light. It's really causing us to see where we have some incongruities around our most impacted students. And so we do need resources um, that revolve around mental health. How can we partner with Arapahoe County Aurora Mental Health? What are the resources that are available for us to continue to provide these very important wraparound services that are being done in community, but are not getting, um, there's a disconnect between applying that medicine to the wounds, right? That our students and their families are experiencing. So there's an opportunity. The greatest need that we have, especially, and I'll just speak for the Leadership Academy students, right now, is these are students that are not uh, involved in, you know, extracurricular activities for the most part. They don't have a relationship with their schools. So where are the opportunities, for job placement and job training that will put legal tender in their pockets today, and also begin to prepare them to be community members that aren't trying to break into my car or climb in the window of my home, or how do we partner so that we can start creating these young people that see themselves as members of our community. Right now they don't necessarily see that. They don't see themselves as members of our community, and that um, their behavior is incongruent with them taking ownership of, right, the fact that I am a member of a larger community, right? I am a larger we. And so those are some of the things that I think we could truly, we have an opportunity to start, well, and we're beginning this process of shining a light on where we're broken, and how we can start getting this healing balm to these youth in a very real way. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
Oh,
Councilmember Marcano, or did you want to ask a question, or do you want to respond or add to that, or?
no, I was just saying, I follow, I think the direction in which you're trying to explain there, Jasper, and that's, you know, why we have you here. So, I guess to start, you know, and I am I share your, you know, gratitude that we had a fairly calm summer, based off of from what we were expecting. And it seems to me that since the fall semester has started, while we've had some issues with, our youth continuing to unfortunately fight, it does seem that the greater effect that we were seeing over the summer months with a lot of juveniles involved in motor vehicle theft, break-ins, petty robbery and things like that have begun to calm down. And I just want to know, from your perspective, what does that look like in the school? What are you hearing from students, SROs, counselors, whoever else, parents? What is changing with our youth, or what has changed, I should say?
Well, I attribute that. I know that there, like the program that we ran, there were a lot of programs that were seeking to intervene, right? Because for all the data we were getting, it's going to be the bloodiest summer ever, and while still proven to be very bloody, and the continuance of that bloodshed here in the fall, like that is a real thing. It is still continuing. I think there was a lot of work done in community to say, where are our students, where are our babies, um how can we put them in safe spaces with people who care and do something different with them, right? That's going to speak to calling them to a higher level, right? So, right, we called ours a leadership academy, and we were very intentional about saying, "Yep, you've been identified as a at-risk student." And what happens when we infuse things like critical thinking and time management into your life? What happens when we give you tangible skills on how to navigate systems and structures, right? And so I think uh, it's a combination of some of that intervention work that was taking place with students in pockets, again in silos, right? You know, um, and not very. I won't say it wasn't strategic, right? There were people who were intentional about going out and finding youth and putting them in safe spaces and giving them an experience that would allow them to show up differently this fall. And so I think we're hearing that there are students who are showing up differently. They are they have identified safe spaces and safe adults. And so that's another thing. How do we continue to bridge uh, um, the gap between the adults in our community, right? And people such as yourselves and elevating their voice. There were some very profound things that we learned from our youth this summer about where we are missing the mark as the adults, as the leaders in our community, right? We're missing them on a very real level, right? For example, one thing that they stated very eloquently and clearly is that you all do not listen when we tell you, right, what we're in need of. And that sounds so simple, right? And that's and I'm guilty of it. And I'm like, man, whatever, right? I hear you, right? But then I've really started to listen from a different place in myself, Councilman Marcano, right? To say, what exactly are you expressing then? Right? I'm expressing to you, adult, that the people who are in charge of us aren't living the life that they say, right, that they are recommending for us, right? The adults in our space are some of the biggest offenders of of drug abuse and use, and are violent themselves, right? And so when we begin to elevate their voice, right, how when we elevate their voice, they are speaking to us. We're missing it because I believe myself as an adult was like, that's too simple. That can't be the answer. When what they're really saying is, you should listen to me when I tell you, right? When I tell you that there's issues on my way to school, when I tell you that there are issues in my school, when I tell you that I have a racist teacher, when I tell you, right? Oftentimes me, adult, dismiss what they are saying, right? As, you got to power through that. You need to toughen up. I have this idea that you are a lost generation. Therefore, um, you know, we all have to deal with people we don't like, et cetera, right? And instead of that, I was forced this summer to hear these young people in a very different way. And in hearing them in a very different way, I was able to gather some profound data. I'd love to share what they came up with you all at some point, in elevating their voice, or even bring them to tell you themselves, right? Some of their recommendations that they have for us. I thought they were profound. And so
Okay.
again, I don't know if I
Go
answered.
ahead, Councilmember
No,
Mercado.
sorry. Thank you, Councilmember Lawson. I apologies there.
That's okay.
No, that was very helpful, Jasper, and I would hope that Councilmember Lawson would agree. I would love to have both you and the students come talk to council if they're willing, and to share that with us, because especially when you're talking about the adults in these students' lives, right? They have these issues. They're bringing them to the classroom, to the school building with them. That is where we need to hear those issues from you and from our youth, because that's our purview, that's our turf, and we're the ones that are able to provide assistance to get those issues corrected. So that would be very, very helpful.
Say when, Doc.
Yep, Jasper, I agree. I think they do need to come to a council member, a meeting, a group, and they need to tell us. We need to listen. And these recommendations, we can't take control of those issues. They're the ones living in these experiences.
That's right.
I've tried to emphasize that. Councilmember McConnell has in a lot of his work, the advocating for the youth violence stuff. But I think it needs to be heard, because I don't know if city leaders and people and city staff, people are listening to that. And that's going to be important, especially as we move forward with this programming that we're doing at the city level, to make sure that those partnerships and what we're doing is in the right direction of what this is going to benefit these youth.
Yes, ma'am.
So definitely, I think that that's important. I will get you, I don't know if you know when our council meetings are, but we can definitely get you those dates to actually get a group. And I would love for them to come and speak to the council. So each of them has 3 minutes.
Cool.
And each of them, and I don't have any problem with each of them speaking. If you
Okay.
had 20, we'll listen. So,
Good.
but also what I wanted to ask you, just on another question, just kind of putting it on my, intergovernmental relations hat here.
Yes.
What is your idea? Dr. Kiki kind of gave us kind of a gap that we have possibly with the city when we're looking at things in these collaborations, that, she suggested that, we should have liaison type, to communicate with the school district, that, we have somebody from, Cherry Creek School District. I don't know if it's the board or whoever, yourself, whoever that may be, to make sure that information is flowing. And we're actually, because I think that that's where we're kind of having some gaps. What is really Cherry Creek doing? Because I know some of my colleagues will say, well, what is the school district doing? So that tells me right there that we're really not kind of bridging that gap to each other with the city and the school district. What's your thoughts on that?
I love the idea of a liaison, and just as an educator and as a coach, right? It's one thing for me to pull the captains of my team together and say, here's the message I want you to take to the team. And it's a whole nother thing when I get the team together and give the message to the team. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Oftentimes things are lost in translation when we do the train the trainer model, right?
Okay.
When we're able to sit down and reason together as teams, if that makes sense, right? Bring me, right? I need my offense, I need my defense, I need my special teams in the room so that we can game plan for this week. And so that is that to me is, yes, a liaison to continue the flow and continue the meeting. And I recognize, like, coordinating schedules, I know that's a limitation. To whatever degree possible, we can get leadership teams to sit down with the city, right? With city leadership. I believe that is where we can be most effective in delivering the message and carrying out, because I'm in a different spot. I have a different purview, right? if I'm looking at that door from this seat, it looks very differently than if I'm across the table looking at it. So everybody's going to walk away from that with a different understanding. So how can we get entire teams would be a recommendation that I have. The more the merrier. How can we get you guys um, to come holler at us at the district level, right? And how can we all sit down and say, this is the game that's going on in town. Our youth have to be the focus right now. We've got the youth. You've got the influence, the power, the resource. Where do we share in that resource, and ultimately where do we share in that responsibility as the adults in the room to commit to doing what's best for all of our children.
Okay.
If that
Well,
makes sense.
Jasper, I thank you for that. I thank you for the update. I thank you for the recommendations. You will be hearing, well, I'm going to get something where we can talk about this liaison thing and this, because I do think that this is something that we do need to do. I know it's, I wish I would have brought it forward before, but like I said, we're moving forward. And I think this is something, a direction that we need to go, definitely with our school district. So I appreciate your update, your recommendations. And I think you'll be hearing back from us about some type of game plan on this, because I think it is important, so.
Phenomenal.
Take care, Jasper, and thank you.
Thank
Have a
you all.
wonderful day.
Thank you, Jasper.
Bye. So my thoughts, Roberto, just on these conversations, I do think I want to bring something back to this committee about how we can establish something like this. And I don't know what it looks like, Councilmember Marcano, but this liaison kind of thing. Roberto, is that something? And I do think it is intergovernmental. I
Yep.
also think it kind of goes a little bit maybe out the preview sometimes, but I think it is intergovernmental.
Yeah, it is in the, it's called out specifically in the job description of the Intergovernmental Relations Manager to have the play our liaison role with the school districts, both Cherry Creek and APS. And so I think it's in our interest to try to get some more formal opportunities, right? So it's standard in the way that we would work with the Aurora delegation, right? So at the beginning of the year, I think Dr. Kiki mentioned a beginning of the year session, right? So the school board's getting started, just an informal kind of our breakfast with council members and board members to talk about kind of what they're doing in the school year, all the way to there's a very specific school closure process that's happening in APS and repurposing around the schools, and getting Superintendent Munn and the school board members to the study session to talk about that. I think it's just the ones that we have that come along issue by issue. But I think there's also some very just standard things that we should be doing to create channels of communication. I really like Jasper's idea of leadership teams. Jim and the leadership teams and DCMs meeting with the superintendent and their staff, school board to school board, Cherry Creek school board members meeting with the kind of the like policy committees. So we have FSIR, they have work groups too in the school boards and other committees, kind of pairing up some of the chairs of those committees depending on issues. So, and of course, the youth violence is one that we need to get really specific ideas on how we get them involved in the effort in the community engagement office that Jasper's part of, but just in general, the work that they're doing, the programming they're doing, so that they know what we do, they know the resources we have, and making sure that when funding becomes available, when we want more input about what we're trying to roll out, that they're part of those conversations, either in that committee structure that we have, or just informally providing advice to us and recommendations on our programming. So lots of to do. We could put that together in a kind of more.
Yeah, and with this committee, I would like for that to kind of be one of the charges of this committee. I know we're coming up to new policy, committees or whatever, but I really want, as being the chair of this committee right now, I want that to be kind of in this agenda and in what our priorities are. So I'm initiating that, Councilmember Marcano. I hope you would support that. So I would like to maybe get a summary of what that looks like, how we could strategize for that, and for that to be part of this committee.
Sure.
I know it could be changed, but that's what I want implemented if possible. So, and also too, Roberto, we used to have breakfast with our state delegation, at the state it would be nice to maybe, I know things are opening up, maybe have some of those with our board, you know, where we can have a luncheon or something like that with each, or whoever. I don't know how we would look at that, but something similar, so.
I'll put that together and we can have that at our next committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mercado, do you have any additions before we move
No.
on to the next item? Okay,
I'm in agreement with that plan. I'm excited about it. So,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Lori, so, we see for the federal legislative update. And thank you for holding on with us.
No worries at all. So I'm going to start off with so right now Congress is in recess. So I'm going to start off with the election update and then move to what the long list of items Congress has to pass when they come back for the next Congress. So as you know, the House is going to be under Republican control. They have, as you probably have seen in the press, it's getting even tighter and tighter. Excuse me. The Republicans are having more and more Republican races are being secured and finalized, and they really think it's going to be at larger control than they originally thought. On the Senate, and there's no, as you know, there's no open really seats in Colorado though right now. On the Senate side, it's a 50-50 chance right now. Some of the races are really tightening up, particularly as you've seen and are like on the verge that you can't quite tell. The Georgia race, obviously, New Hampshire are the two that we are watching really closely right now, and Pennsylvania as well. So there's just Republicans just need to gain one seat to be in control. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. And on the House side, just 5 seats Republicans need to gain control. So it'll be very interesting on election day. I'm going to send y'all a slide deck that our firms put together on what they foresee right now. And then we're going to have a couple webinars too right after election day to share the impact of what happens. So if it does flip, all committee chairs will change over. Many new members will be part of the committees. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in our delegation. But on the House side, as you know, if you're whoever's in control really can run any kind of bills through, unlike the Senate where it takes 60 votes. So it'll be very interesting to see how the agenda changes on the House side. I do think there's going to be more scrutiny on the infrastructure dollars, IIJA. Now the funding's not going away because it was mandatory money, but I think they're going to have a number of hearings investigating how local governments and states and transportation agencies are utilizing that money. Not that any of it will be rescinded. I just think it's at this time, like I'm telling all my local government clients, share good practices and how are you utilizing the money, so we can give great stories for our delegation to prove that bill, even though it was passed in a bipartisan way, it was really very much needed for our needs, especially during inflation. Yeah. So we're on the Senate side, it passed by a good bipartisan majority. In the House, there are only a few Republicans in supporting the bill. I think we're going to see a lot more too, like on permitting and streamlining NEPA, which will be helpful, especially with the War Water and their projects, as well as Public Works. And then next year also we have to do an FAA reauthorization bill. And I know the airport always has a lot of priorities for this bill, but this is a bill that I think can be done on a bipartisan basis. The one thing out there that's really unclear is earmarks. So they've been popular on both sides of the aisle, on the Senate side and on the House side too. But it's going to be interesting to see if Speaker McCarthy is going to continue to allow them to happen. We're hearing we have a couple of former Republican congressmen that work in our firm. And they are hearing from their, former colleagues in the House, they're going to continue to allow them. I would think, especially if you're a Republican member, why would you want the Biden administration to decide where your projects are going to be funded, right? So I think earmarks have been really helpful for not only the city, but other states across the country to choose what you want to be funded. But I'll keep you posted on that. We should know something about that early January. So the new Congress will start like second week of January. They're going to start doing their orientation. In the Senate, they'll be a little bit past. It'll probably be in late January. They'll start doing committee assignments for both the House and Senate in January and early February. And then Roberto and I are continuing to decide and discuss the right timing for your visit next year.
Sounds good.
When they come back, the week after the election, they need to get the National Defense Authorization Act done. Water Resources Development Act, which is a policy and funding bill for Army Corps of Engineers, and then the Omnibus Appropriations Bill. I don't think that bill's going to be in jeopardy at all because so many senior members of the Appropriations Committee who've been there decades are retiring. So you certainly want to see their projects go through and also had this be part of their legacy. So we should know probably around December. The CHAR is lasting to December 16th. And staff are saying they think they can get a appropriations bill done around then, or maybe a short-term CR. So we'll let you know as soon as possible, so you can see we know your earmarks are in the bill. We do think they will stay in the bill, but I know it'd be helpful for y'all on timing to see when you should start working with your local partners on those 2 earmarks. And there'll also be a group of tax extenders as well, and then the same-sex marriage bill will also be considered in the Senate side. It passed in the House before August recess. There's a lot of support actually with Republicans on the Senate side. They still don't quite have the numbers. So McConnell thought it'd be easier to have the election done first and then have people vote on it. So that could pass. I think that's all that's going on right now. I mean, it's really quiet right now, but it'll be really busy in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Lori, as you know, we're still trying to finalize our federal priorities, so that
Yes.
will be done at the next study session.
Okay.
So we will definitely, because we haven't given you the final draft of the finalization of that. It went through the committee, but it did not get approval. We put a pause on it for another
November.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
So we will have those finalized priorities to you in the next, I think in next study session, Roberta will have it to her for that week.
November 7th.
Yeah, November 7th. Councilmember McConnell, before I move on to the letter, the 4295 Financial Data Transparency Act, just to kind of give some updates on that, did you have any questions for Lori on the federal side?
None at the moment. I'm just eager to get the election cycle over with.
Okay. Lori, are you going to be presenting on the 4295 Financial Data Transparency Act of 2022? And we did, or is that, I just see your name, I see it as a sub-bullet.
I was going to give you an update on it. Is that okay?
Just to let the public know, we did approve this letter to move forward to our delegation, correct? Okay.
This is a letter from Terry Velasquez that you approved her to send a letter to send the senators on the bill, and so Lori can give an update of where we're at on the reauthorization.
So Lori,
Sure.
why don't you kind of just give a short summary and then where we're at on this?
Right. So it's going to be attached to the National Defense Authorization Act. So a small group of senators came back last week to start debating it on the floor. So then they can start conversing with the House, who already got their vote done. They are working GFO, I'm going to mess up this name, the Government Financing Officers Association, which the city is a member of, GFA, sorry about that. They are working on compromise language right now with Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, and then Senator Crapo of Idaho, who's Republican. We have not seen that compromise amendment yet. My colleague Leslie, who many of you met, has been working on it, along with Chifa. And so she said the language is, I talked to her this morning, is not final yet, but it should be soon. And every single one of my clients, municipal, transportation, and water, are concerned about this. So the senators are definitely hearing from everyone, including this conference and NLC too. Chifa did a really good job lobbying on this. I don't think anyone ever knew this even exists. It's MSRB. They have to share data with even until this amendment was presented. But everyone now is working closely together and hopefully gets a compromise. So the city won't be on the hook.
Good.
And just so you know, Lori, Terry Velasquez is the president of the GFAO this year.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, our
Okay.
finance. So she, that's a very kind of high level position, and she's really involved in them and does a lot of work with them. And so they have their lobbying and advocacy arm. So anytime you need to call on Terry and her team can speak to the implications for local governments in particular. I know they got a coalition there, but Terry has that unique role, a very important role. So if you need that
Well,
help.
why don't I follow back with his Senate offices? Already sent the letter and just offer Terry to speak with him if they have any questions.
Please do, and let her know that
I'll do that today.
she holds that role, and so she speaks for the membership of that, which is all the finance directors and finance folks for local governments, municipalities across the country. So,
Okay. Do you know if Dr. Cog is being affected by it?
that I don't know, but I can
Or
find out.
RTD?
I think it does, because
think it
it's
does,
all the
RTD.
quasi-government, quasi-local governments. They all fall in that category. They all have that same issue in terms of data reporting. So I can confirm, but that's the kind of questions that Terry could really speak to, is exactly how that works.
The reason why I brought this up is just having them contact their delegate, the senators too.
Okay.
I'm assuming Denver probably is already doing it, but I think the more the merrier, right? The lobbying. Because I was surprised transportation was affected until I spoke to a trans agency last week. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just local government.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lori. Councilmember Marcano, do you have any questions on this letter and what was stated on the update on this?
Yeah, I think I had sent in a question when this first came to our attention. If there's any potential upside to the end goal that might be ameliorated by support in transitioning, because part of the issue that I took with this is that it would basically be an unfunded mandate, which is actually posted in the letter here. So if they provided support and had a reasonable timeline for transition so that nothing got lost in the shuffle, was there any kind of potential upside from a staff perspective?
So that's what they were concerned about. They wanted to, I think GFA wants to study it first.
Okay.
And they did not provide a timing for, I remember, GFA. I think that was one of the complaints by GFA, that in the, Votex, there was not a timeline.
Okay, yeah, because I can see upside to standardizing, data practices, as long as you're not, omitting specialty information that would be, useful for specific disciplines or jurisdictions or entities. But yeah, aside from that, I'm fine with the letter. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't, potentially foregoing some benefit that could be realized by compromising on the existing on the mandate as proposed, so I'm glad to hear that they want to look into it. So
Thank you so much, Lori, for the update. I appreciate it, and I'll be seeing you soon.
I was going to ask, when are y'all coming to Kansas City?
I'll be there on the 16th because I have transportation committee. I don't know if Councilmember Marcano is still going or not, so.
no, just I have a medical issue and it makes travel very difficult for me at the moment. So yeah.
So it'll just be me. I don't know who else is attending, but I'll be there.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so we'll meet up ahead of time. Angela and I will. Are you flying in the morning, the 16th? Or
Yes.
the night before?
No, the
Okay.
morning. Mhm.
I need to start looking for flights, I guess. We get too high.
Well, I'll see
Okay,
you in a
I will
couple
see you
weeks.
soon then.
Okay, bye. Thank you, Lori.
Bye. Oh, give me your questions. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I think you answered everything and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, see you later. Okay, for the state legislative update, is Peggy, I saw Peggy, Totsi, and Cami.
Hi, good afternoon. I am happy to start off our update. As you know, the elections are November 8th. And in Colorado, probably the most competitive chamber at the state level is the Senate. The Republicans are hopeful that they can pick up enough seats to flip that chamber. It's going to be a tough road for them to do that. Currently, the split is 21-14. And as you recall, Senator Priola, with his changing of parties in the last couple of months, that's really given the Democrats an advantage. In the House, the Republicans are hopeful they can pick up a few seats, but I don't think they're under the illusion that they're going to be able to make up the 41-24 disadvantage that they have, but they would like to get those numbers a little bit closer. And then I think most folks believe that the governor is likely to retain his seat So I think there's probably, I don't know, 70–80% chance we see the current structure continue to exist going into 2023. But the good news is we'll know in a couple weeks one way or the other. We've also got several statewide ballot issues that the voters will be looking at. Amendment D, which is the 23rd Judicial District judges. That's the measure that allows judges from the 18th Judicial District to move into the 23rd. Amendment E, which extends the homestead exemption for Gold Star spouses. Amendment F, which reduces the number of years a charity must wait to operate bingo from 5. It reduces that down and allows for compensation. FF is the Healthy School Meals for All that expands the Healthy School Meal Program. GG is the tax information table that would be added for voters' reference on petitions and ballots. 121 is the state income tax reduction. 122 is the natural psychedelic proposition. 123 affordable housing program. 124 allows for increased number of liquor store licenses. 125 allows for wine in grocery and convenience stores. And 126 allows for third-party delivery of alcohol for restaurants, grocery stores, those sort of entities. So lots on the ballot this year. As you know, the ballots are out now. So I think most campaigns are trying to wrap up things, do those last minute pushes. As soon as the election is done, there will be leadership elections. The House will definitely vote on a new speaker, several contenders in that race. So we'll see that, and the majority leader, as well as there could potentially be quite a shakeup on Joint Budget Committee. A couple of the members are running for Denver mayor. They say they're going to stay on the JBC, but it's a pretty hefty lift over there. But there's also some folks that may move into leadership. So we may see some big changes on the JBC. They'll start to meet after the elections as well. The governor will introduce his proposed budget, and the legislators will start to meet with departments and their staff to start to get briefings on those budgets from the various departments. I think after the election, we'll get a lot more information on potential bills that will be coming for next session. This year, there really has been a hesitation, as you know, Councilwoman Lawson, from our meetings with legislators. There's been a real hesitation for folks to start working on those bills yet. I think they're trying to wait to see what the political ramifications after the elections are. So we should start to hear a bunch on that. We know that there, excuse me, there will be cybersecurity funding that will come down to the local level through the federal government to the state. And we know that we'll see bills on transportation. We'll certainly see additional legislation on affordable housing. One of the things that Senator Gonzalez, who really has spearheaded that issue, she shared that one of the things they really want to look into this year is accountability. As you know, there's been such a huge influx of federal funding. She wants to make sure that we're spending this well and the money is getting to where it needs to be. We may see that similar model on some of these other big spending issues where we saw federal funding come in. So lots is going to be happening, I think, in the next couple months because it's been such a focus on the elections up until this point. So we should really start to see things moving. I know that we're looking for additional folks to help out at FSIR. But in the meantime, we'll work with Roberto on coming up with one of those kind of pre-session gathering our delegation all together and having some sort of coffee or breakfast or something where we can visit with them like we've done in the past. I think we haven't done one of those big meetings since the beginning of COVID. So
Yeah, even prior to that, I mean, I really like that. Even where if we used to have the dinner, but I remember when we used to go down to the Capitol.
yeah,
For the breakfast.
right. That's right.
And that was kind of a nice thing. And I know when Mayor Hogan was alive, we did that a lot. So, but I would like to maybe try to reestablish that again, because I think that talking in person and having those gatherings, it's really insightful for everyone. So
Agreed. Well, we'll work with Roberto to come up with some sort of game plan for that going into session.
Council, Cami and Totsi, before if we have any questions, do you want to do a report of any sort or?
I don't think so. I think Peggy covered it. Thank you.
Okay. Totsi? You're muted.
And I don't have a cat. So, yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the Colorado Press Association apparently will be running some kind of Cora bill this year. I talked to them today, and she does not have any language yet, but she does want to put together a stakeholder group. So I asked that we be a part of that. And I wanted to just follow up and make sure that you all knew that we discussed driver's license schools at the last FSIR meeting. And I did talk to the Department of Revenue, and they do certify these schools. And if we think that there are problems out there, they would love to hear from us.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I guess so it's more complaint driven then.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the indication I got from Cooper, who said, if we don't know, we can't do anything. So,
Okay. Thank you for that information. That's insightful as well. So,
of course.
Can I ask Tati a request?
Yes.
Tati, I know that CML always has a rep for those open records and Cora working groups, but if there's any other slots that we can be involved in, that'd be appreciated. Katie Rodriguez, our clerk, is involved obviously in all those and has that in her area, and any changes would be impacting her. So if there's any ability either for her to provide feedback or sit on a working group, please let us know. If CML, I know sometimes they just kind of allocate certain slots for those, but if there's a local government slot that they have, or they want to have some participation, we'd be happy to do that.
Roberto, that's a good point. I think that I can positively get her involved in a stakeholder meeting that's not as formal as what CML may be doing. The woman who represents the Press Association shares another client with me. So I think that we could make that happen.
Any way that we can be involved in,
Sure.
in shaping it or giving them reactions to what they're putting together would be great.
Absolutely.
and then Councilmember Marcano, do you have any questions regarding the state update? Anything that you would like to have our lobbyists look into, or any other comments based on this update?
Thank you, Councilmember Lawson. No, not at the moment. I just want to make sure that we can get our priorities through
Yes.
intact. So
Yes. Yes, and we will make sure that that gets done in the next on November 7th. So apologies for that delay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much to all of you, and you guys have a great week. So appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we have Kathy, our water update. Hi, Kathy.
Hello.
Oh, I see a garage back there.
At one of the Prairie Waters facilities, so I apologize if it's a bit echoey.
Oh, no, I was just looking at it different. So.
Let's see, I've got two informational updates for you today, very quick. And the first one is Camp Hale. So President Biden did proclaim Camp Hale a national monument. inside the proclamation, there is some fairly strong water rights protection language, so we should be okay. The devil, of course, will be in the details as the Forest Service does the National Monument Management Plan over the next 3 to 5 years. So, but all is in good shape right now. The second informational item is last Thursday on October 20th, our Aurora Water State lobbyist, Jeff Seaman with Colorado Advocates, he arranged for a virtual Aurora Water meeting with the Aurora State legislators. And I was on vacation last Thursday, but I got an update this morning, and I guess we had a very good turnout. We had 6 legislators come, and Marshall Brown and Alex Davis, they led the conversation. And the majority of the discussion was on the turf replacement and on the new water conservation ordinance. And the legislators, they requested us to do a follow-up with them. Apparently they do a monthly meeting with HOA representatives. So whenever that gets next scheduled, we'll have Aurora Water representation there to explain our water conservation program, the new water ordinance, and just how you go about doing turf replacement and getting assistance from our program. And so we look forward to doing that. And that's my update for today.
Okay, Councilmember Marcano, do you have any questions or anything you want to address with Kathy on the water update?
Yeah, I guess, Kathy, if I can ask, did there seem to be any interest from the legislature in emulating any portions of what we have passed? And with regards to turf replacement, I guess I want to know exactly what they were wanting to learn. So I thought that was a fairly standard practice with some other jurisdictions in the state. So
I think, and I wasn't there, so I can do a little bit of follow-up too. From my conversations this morning, they wanted help explaining the program and explaining what assistance was available to the HOA representatives. So I think that was the bulk of it, first understanding for themselves, and if anything more was needed at the state legislature, because last year they did pass a turf replacement program bill that I think it provided $2 million maybe into the CWCB program to distribute. And so it was just getting some of those facts out and then helping explain it to the HOA representatives. Let's see, have I answered your question?
yeah, well, for the most part.
I'm happy to follow up further if there is anything else.
All right, well, thank you so much, Kathy. I appreciate the update. And our next miscellaneous matters for consideration. Councilmember Marcano, do you have anything?
None at the moment.
Okay, our next meeting is November 18th. We still are going to have that meeting. I will be at National League of Cities, but I'm still going to do the meeting. So if that date's still okay with you, Councilmember Marcano, or
That'll work for me.
or will that work? Okay,
Yes.
so we're just going to still have that meeting on November 18th, Roberto.
Got it. November 18th at 1 p.m.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councilmember Marcano, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.